The unraveling threads. The autumn sunlight filtered through the expansive windows of the Rodriguez Art Gallery, casting a warm glow on the pristine white walls. Elena Rodriguez stood amid her latest exhibition, her keen eye surveying the carefully curated collection of contemporary art. At 38, she was a force to be reckoned with in the Los Angeles art world, her gallery a testament to her impeccable taste and business acumen. Her phone vibrated. Another message from Marcus. She ignored it, her fingers absently tracing the frame of a striking abstract piece. Something had been off in their marriage for months, a tension that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Marcus, once attentive and passionate, had become distant, his late-night work calls growing more frequent, his explanations increasingly vague. As the gallery staff prepared for the evening's opening, Elena couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Her financial advisor had noticed irregularities in their joint accounts, small withdrawals, carefully masked transfers that seemed to vanish into thin air. Marcus had dismissed her concerns, his lawyer's charm deflecting her questions with practiced ease. Rebecca Chen emerged from the back office, her tailored blazer crisp, her smile professional. "The insurance documentation for the new exhibition is ready," she said, handing Elena a folder. Their interactions were always cordial, but something felt different. Rebecca's glances lingered a moment too long, her professional demeanor hiding something beneath the surface. That evening, as the gallery hummed with the chatter of art collectors and critics, Elena's mind wandered. The life she had built seemed perfect from the outside. A successful gallery, a beautiful home in the Hollywood Hills, a marriage that appeared solid to the world. But appearances, she was learning, could be devastatingly deceptive. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from an unknown number caught her eye. A screenshot. Bank statements showing the series of transfers to an account she didn't recognize. Thousands of dollars, funneled quietly over months. Her heart raced as she opened the message. "Thought you should know," the text read. "Your husband isn't who you think he is." The anonymity of the message should have worried her, but Elena felt a strange sense of relief. Confirmation of the doubts that had been gnawing at her for months. She looked across the room, catching Marcus's eye as he conversed with a group of potential investors. His smile was charming, his demeanor relaxed, but to Elena, it now seemed like a carefully constructed mask. Later that night, in the silence of their modern home, Elena confronted Marcus. "Who is Rebecca Chen to you?" she asked, her voice calm but razor-sharp. The folder of bank statements lay between them on the marble kitchen island. Marcus's facade cracked for just a moment, a flicker of panic crossing his perfectly composed features. "It's not what you think," he began, but Elena knew better. Years of reading people in the art world had honed her instincts. The truth was coming. Threads of deception were about to unravel, and Elena Rodriguez was prepared to pull every single one. As the city lights flickered outside, casting long shadows across their living room, Elena realized her life was about to change forever. The carefully constructed world she had built was balanced on the edge of a knife, and she was ready to cut through the lies. This was more than a personal betrayal. This was a battle for her truth, her dignity, and her future. Shadows of deception. The week following Elena's confrontation with Marcus was a study in carefully maintained appearances. By day, they moved around each other like carefully choreographed dancers, professional, distant, each maintaining a facade for the world to see. But beneath the surface, a war was brewing. Elena began her investigation in earnest. Years of negotiating the cutthroat art world had taught her the value of patience and precision. She started by tracing the mysterious bank transfers, her fingers moving deftly across her laptop keyboard late into the night. Each transaction told a story, small withdrawals, carefully timed, routed through a complex network of accounts that seemed designed to obscure their true origin. Rebecca Chen became her primary focus. During gallery hours, Rebecca remained the consummate professional, efficient, intelligent, seemingly beyond reproach. But Elena watched her with new eyes. The way she took phone calls in hushed tones, the subtle tension in her shoulders when Marcus was nearby. Something was definitely amiss. A breakthrough came unexpectedly. While reviewing some gallery financial records, Alina discovered a series of consulting contracts with a mysterious consulting firm, Horizon Strategic Solutions. The payments were substantial, the documentation minimal. Her financial instincts screamed that something was wrong. It was her assistant, George, who provided the first real lead. "I overheard something last week," he confided during a private moment in the gallery. "I saw Rebecca arguing with Marcus in the parking garage." It didn't look like a typical business discussion. The pieces began to fall into place. The bank transfers, the mysterious consulting contracts, the hushed conversations. Marcus was involved in something far more complex than a simple affair. Alina's investigation took her deeper. She hired a discreet private investigator, a former police detective named Frank Rodriguez, no relation, who specialized in financial fraud. His initial report was damning. The consulting firm was a shell, no real office, minimal online presence, but significant financial activity. "Someone's moving money," Frank told her during a clandestine meeting in a downtown coffee shop, "and they're doing it in a way that suggests they're trying to hide something big." The tension at home became unbearable. Marcus continued to play his part, the devoted husband, the successful lawyer. But Alina saw through the performance now. Every smile seemed calculated, every conversation a carefully constructed narrative. One evening, as Marcus prepared for what he claimed was an important business dinner, Alina made her move. Under the guise of asking about a minor gallery expense, she casually mentioned Rebecca's name. The briefest flash of panic crossed Marcus's eyes, so quick that anyone else might have missed it. "Rebecca?" he asked, his voice too casual. "Just a business associate." But Alina knew better. The web of deceit was extensive, and she was determined to unravel every single thread. As Marcus left for his business dinner, Alina began collecting evidence. Bank statements, email records, text message logs. She was building a case. The gallery became her war room, each piece of information a weapon in her arsenal. She thought of her parents, both immigrants who had worked tirelessly to give her opportunities. They had taught her about dignity, about standing up for herself. This was more than a personal betrayal. This was about truth, about justice. The shadows of deception were long, but Alina Rodriguez was about to bring them into the light. Her phone rang, an unknown number. As she answered, a voice whispered, "What you're looking for goes deeper than you can imagine." The game was about to change. The hidden ledger. The anonymous phone call haunted Alina. "What you're looking for goes deeper than you can imagine." Those words echoed in her mind as she delved deeper into her investigation, each revelation more disturbing than the last. Frank Rodriguez, the private investigator, uncovered a critical piece of the puzzle. The shell company, Horizon Strategic Solutions, had connections that stretched far beyond Marcus's law firm. Financial trails led to offshore accounts, political connections, and a network of influential people who seemed to operate in the shadows. "This isn't just about money," Frank explained during their next meeting, sliding a thick file across the table. "This looks like a sophisticated money laundering operation, and your husband is right in the middle of it." Alina's gallery became her base of operations. Late at night, after the staff had gone home, she would spread documents across her office, connecting the dots. Rebecca Chen's role was becoming clearer. She wasn't just a business associate. She was a key player in something much larger. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. George, her loyal assistant, discovered a USB drive hidden in a stack of gallery paperwork. "I found this when I was cleaning up," he said, his voice hesitant. "I thought you should see it." The USB contained a series of encrypted files. It took Alina 3 sleepless nights and the help of a freelance cybersecurity expert to crack the encryption. What she found was shocking. Detailed financial records, conversations, emails, a comprehensive ledger that mapped out a complex network of financial manipulation. Marcus wasn't just involved in a simple affair or even just financial fraud. He was part of something systemic, a network that seemed to infiltrate multiple industries. Her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "You're getting close," the voice said, "but be careful. They're watching." Before Elena could respond, the call disconnected. The ledger implicated not just Marcus, but several prominent lawyers, business executives, and even a few local politicians. It was a spider web of corruption that seemed to touch every aspect of Los Angeles's elite circles. Rebecca Chen's role became clearer. She wasn't just Marcus's potential romantic interest. She was a key operative in this complex network. The consulting contracts, the mysterious transfers, it was all part of a larger scheme. Elena reached out to an investigative journalist she knew, Maria Gonzalez. "I need your help," she said during a secure call. "I have something big." Maria was skeptical at first, but as Elena shared the contents of the ledger, her interest grew. "This could be the story of the decade," Maria whispered. But with each step closer to the truth, the risks grew. Strange cars began to park near the gallery. Elena noticed subtle signs of surveillance, a phone that seemed to work differently, unexpected clicks on her calls. Marcus remained oblivious, or pretended to be. He continued his routine, coming home late, making carefully worded phone calls, maintaining the illusion of normalcy. Elena knew she was walking a dangerous line. Exposing this network would not just end her marriage, it could potentially put her life at risk. As she sorted through the final pieces of evidence, a handwritten note fell from the stack of documents. The handwriting was familiar. It was from her father, written years ago. "Some secrets are better left buried," it read. "But some truths demand to be told." Elena understood now. This was about more than just her personal betrayal. This was about justice, about exposing a system that had operated in the shadows for too long. The final pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and Elena Rodriguez was ready to bring everything into the light. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "They know you're close," the message read. "Be careful." The hunt was on. Alliances and revelations. The pressure was mounting. Elena knew she was running out of time. Maria Gonzalez, the investigative journalist, became her closest ally. They met in secure locations, carefully planning their next move. The ledger they had uncovered was more than just a collection of financial records. It was a map of a sophisticated network of corruption that ran deeper than either of them had imagined. "We need more than just digital evidence," Maria explained, spreading out a series of documents in a private meeting room. "We need a whistleblower, someone from the inside who's willing to talk." Their opportunity came unexpectedly. Frank Rodriguez, the private investigator, discovered a potential weak link. Thomas Rice, a junior accountant who had worked on the periphery of the network. He was young, ambitious, and increasingly uncomfortable with what he had witnessed. The initial meeting was tense. Thomas arrived at a small cafe, looking over his shoulder constantly. His hand shook as he sipped his coffee, fear etched into every line of his face. "They'll kill me if they know I'm talking," Thomas whispered. "I've seen what they're capable of." Elena leaned forward, her voice calm but intense. "We can protect you, but we need the full story." Thomas began to talk. The network was more extensive than they had imagined. It wasn't just about money laundering. There were political connections, blackmail, entire careers built on manipulation and fear. Marcus was a key player, but not the mastermind. He was part of a larger machine, a system that had been operating in the shadows for years. As they gathered more evidence, the risks increased. Strange cars began to follow Elena. Her phone calls became intermittent, filled with strange static. Someone was watching, and they were getting closer. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Rebecca Chen contacted Elena directly. "We need to talk," the message read. "Alone." The meeting was set in a secluded park, far from the eyes of the network they were trying to expose. Rebecca arrived looking tired. her usual professional demeanor replaced by a sense of desperation. "I want out," Rebecca said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know too much, and I'm tired of living in fear." She brought additional evidence, documents that went beyond the ledger they had already discovered. Financial trails, communication records, a complete map of the network's operations. "Marcus doesn't know I have these," she explained. "I've been collecting them as insurance. Protection." The pieces were falling into place, but with each revelation, the danger grew more intense. A late-night call from Frank Rodriguez brought new urgency. "They know we're close," he warned. "They're preparing to move against us." Alina understood the stakes. This was no longer just about her marriage or personal betrayal. This was about exposing the system of corruption that had operated with impunity for years. Maria Gonzalez was preparing her expose. Thomas Rice was ready to testify. Rebecca Chen had become an unexpected ally. But the network wouldn't go down without a fight. As Alina reviewed the final pieces of evidence, a sense of resolve settled over her. She thought of her parents, of the values they had instilled in her: integrity, courage, justice. The final confrontation was coming. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "They're coming," it read. "Be ready." The game was about to reach its climax. The final judgment. The day of reckoning arrived with an unexpected calm. Alina Rodriguez stood in her gallery, surrounded by the evidence they had carefully collected. Maria Gonzalez was finalizing her expose. Thomas Rice was prepared to testify. Rebecca Chen had turned state's witness, her insider knowledge providing the final pieces of the puzzle. Marcus was unaware of the storm about to break. He continued his routine, oblivious to the investigation that had been methodically dismantling his world. The press conference was strategically planned. City Hall, with its marble columns and imposing facade, would be the stage for their revelation. Maria would break the story simultaneously with a comprehensive investigative report, while Thomas Rice would provide the critical insider testimony. As the morning of the press conference dawned, Alina received a final piece of information from Frank Rodriguez. "The network is in panic," he told her. "They're trying to cover their tracks, but it's too late." The gallery became their war room. Stacks of documents, encrypted files, and carefully preserved evidence covered every surface. Each piece was a weapon against a system of corruption that had operated in the shadows for too long. Marcus arrived home early that morning, his demeanor unusual. "We need to talk," he said, his voice different, less confident, more desperate. Alina was prepared. "Sit down," she replied calmly. What followed was not an argument, but a dismantling. Alina laid out everything: the financial trails, the shell companies, the network of corruption. Marcus's carefully constructed world crumbled around him. "I was trying to protect us," he stammered. "The network, they would have destroyed everything if I didn't play along." Alina's response was measured. "By betraying everything we stood for, by becoming part of the very system we always said we'd fight against." At noon, the press conference began. Maria Gonzalez presented the evidence with surgical precision. Thomas Rice provided testimony that confirmed the scale of the corruption. Rebecca Chen's documents filled in the remaining gaps. The network crumbled. Prominent lawyers, business executives, and local politicians found themselves under investigation. The ledger they had so carefully hidden became their downfall. Marcus was arrested that afternoon. The once powerful lawyer was reduced to a defendant, his connections suddenly meaningless. In the days that followed, Alina found herself transformed. The gallery became a symbol of her resilience. The art on its walls, once just beautiful objects, now seemed to represent something more: truth, integrity, the power of standing up against corruption. Frank Rodriguez visited her a week later. "You did it," he said, a rare smile crossing his face. "You brought them down." Alina looked at the gallery around her. The investigation had cost her her marriage, her previous life, but it had given her something more valuable: her integrity. "We did it," she corrected him. Together, the story would become more than just an expose. It was a testament to the power of truth, of standing up against a system designed to protect the powerful. As the sun set over Los Angeles, casting long shadows across the city, Alina Rodriguez knew that some battles are worth fighting, no matter the personal cost. Her phone buzzed. A message from Maria Gonzalez. Pulitzer-worthy, it read. Alina smiled. The truth had finally come out.